everyone, welcome back to my channel and to another video. I'm Sally and this is my channel Secret Life of a Seamstress, where I talk all about sewing and knitting and crafting, making a handmade wardrobe. I hope you're all doing really well today. It feels a little while since I've sat in front of the camera to record a video. So it's September now, so everyone's gone back to school just this week. We had a really lovely summer holidays and I hope you all had a lovely summer as well. I'm saying summer, I know for some of you watching this it was probably your autumn winter time. So I hope you've had a really lovely past 6 weeks, whatever the season is for you. For us here in the UK, we've had the 6-week school holiday. We had a lovely holiday away in Menorca actually. It was so hot. I think because we'd had such a rubbish summer so far here in the UK, I just couldn't believe that we were going to be going somewhere that was like 30-degree heat. We had a lovely time though. We had a villa with some friends which had a pool in it. They've got children as well, so it was just a really nice relaxing time. But yeah, very different weather to here in the UK, and you'll know if you've been watching my videos leading up to the summer holidays, I was actually sewing quite a few things to take away with me on holiday, and some of those things unfortunately didn't actually get worn on the holiday because it was just so hot. So I'd made some things like shirt cover-ups and things like that, some Logan Shackets, and in reality it was actually just a bit too hot to wear those kind of things because the fabric that I'd chosen was just a little bit too heavy. But never mind, I know those things are going to get worn here in the UK. So yeah, we're back to normal now and back into the routine of getting up in the morning and being out for school and all that fun stuff. And in typical fashion here in the UK, it seems to happen every year. We've had a rubbish summer. I don't think it reached past, say, 19 degrees. But in typical fashion, the children have gone back to school and this week we've had 30-degree heat. So I'm actually recording this in 30-degree heat, feeling very hot and bothered. I've actually got the back door open here while I'm filming, so I do apologise if it is a bit noisy, but I have to have the door and window open, otherwise my camera is going to massively overheat. So I just hope it's not too noisy. Anyway, after all that chat, I should do a proper introduction to what I'm going to be talking about today. So today I thought, just to get me back into the sort of filming thing, and because I haven't filmed a video for a while, I thought I would just do a really nice sort of relaxed, chatty catch up about all things sewing and crafting that I've been doing over the holidays, plans I've got, fabrics I've picked up, a couple of things that I've been making and things that I've got on the go as well. And I'll just make it nice and relaxed. It probably will be a bit waffly because I haven't sat down and spoken for a while. But yeah, I hope you'll bear with me, and thank you for joining me today again, and thank you for bearing with me during my summer break. So with all that said, let's get into the video. So there are going to be a few different sections to this, as I say, in terms of makes, works in progress and things like that. So I am going to put timestamps in the video description. So if you're looking for anything in particular, or if you're only interested in sewing and not knitting, for example, you can hopefully find the parts you're interested in. And at the end of the video, I will just do a little bit of reading chat as well, because I know a lot of you like to read too, and I'll put that at the end of the video, so that you can either watch or skip past if you don't want to. So let's start first of all with what I've been making. So I will admit that over this summer holiday, not a lot of sewing got done at all. But I will just talk about what I'm wearing today, because I think in the last video I filmed, I may have shown you this dress in progress. So I'm actually wearing the finished dress today, and that is my Sew Over It Pippa dress. You'll know if you watch my videos that I tend to do a sort of seasonal 5 patterns that I want to sew for the upcoming season. And this was a dress that I really wanted to sew for the spring and summer months. So if you've not seen the Sew Over It Pippa dress, it's a really lovely fitted style dress. It has a kind of interesting asymmetrical button detail, which hopefully you can see here on the camera, even though I've got the microphone. It has this asymmetrical sort of faux wrap bodice, and then it's fitted over the waist and hips, and it kind of flares out slightly from your hips down to whichever length you choose to make it. So you can make this dress in mini, midi or maxi length. and the sizes range, I think, off the top of my head, from a size 6 to a size 30, so it is one of SOI Pippa's more inclusive size range patterns. So this has been on my radar, as I say, for quite a while, and even though it was a dress that I was really excited to make up, it took me absolutely ages to get around to sewing this, and I don't really know why. Well, actually, I think I do know why. I think it's because I knew that it would take a little bit of adjusting in terms of fit for me. And also, I just couldn't decide on a fabric that I wanted to make this dress up in. So anyway, I was really lucky enough to grab some of this beautiful Minerva exclusive viscose fabric for my latest Minerva brand ambassador post. And after a little bit of umming and ahhing, I knew I wanted to make a dress from this fabric, but I wasn't quite sure which one. And then eventually I decided on the Pippa dress. So I actually had the Pippa dress printed out by the Fold line in an AO copy shop. So I literally just needed to cut into it. So in terms of my measurements, I was kind of between a size 8 and a size 10. So in my pattern grading, to get this dress to fit, I am an 8 at the bust, I'm a 10 at the waist, an 8 at the hips. And then because I wanted my dress to be slightly more fitted than the dress is drafted to be, I actually drafted in from the hips, which were a size 8, down to a size 6, just to make it slightly more fitted. I have actually written up this make for Minerva now, so I'll pop the link, which goes into a bit more detail about the grading and everything, to my Minerva post in the description of this video if you want to pop over and read that. But yeah, it did take a while to get this right, and I was just kind of holding my breath the whole way through that I had got the measurements right. So I do sometimes have to grade out slightly at the waist, particularly in a fitted dress like this. I think where this bodice sort of ends, it can be quite tight over your waist and hips area, and I hate anything feeling too tight. I'm way too used to floaty gathered dresses. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I had enough room to move and eat and all those nice things that you do like to be able to do in normal life. So I'm pleased to say that my measurements worked out well and this dress fits me really comfortably. So I'm glad that I took the time to do that. The other change that I made to this, I wanted my dress to fall around sort of ankle length or just above, so a kind of longer midi length. So the actual midi length that the pattern is drafted for was actually a bit short for me, but the maxi length was way too long. It would have dragged on the floor. So I was kind of in between with the lengths that I wanted to go for. So in the end, what I did was I used the midi length cut line and I added 10 centimeters to that. And another thing that I just took into consideration while I was doing that was that this dress does need to hang because it's slightly cut on the bias at certain points, so it can drop. So you do need to, once you've finished making the dress and everything, you need to hang it and just make sure that everything's level before you hem it, and that does sometimes mean that you lose a little bit of length in the leveling process. So yeah, I'm so pleased with this dress. It's the only Pippa dress that I've made so far. I would like to make another one, but I think perhaps next summer now. I have really liked the sort of more fitted style midi dress that's been around on the high street this summer. So I'm really glad to have a dress that looks like this in my wardrobe rather than the sort of maxi or midi length gathered dresses that I have. Whew, my goodness, it is hot. So the next thing, or the only thing actually, that I managed to get properly sewed up over the summer was my Ilford jacket by Friday Pattern Company. So this was actually another one of the patterns that I'd put on my 5 patterns list that I wanted to get made for spring and summer. I've been very slow with that list, I have to say, this year. We're coming to the end of summer now and there are still 2 patterns on that list that I really do want to get sewn up before the end of summer, which is approaching very quickly. In fact, if you're being really picky, you could say it's already the end of summer and we're actually into autumn, but I'm going to ignore that for now. Anyway, I am going to do another video actually once I've made all of those things, just reviewing the 5 patterns that I've chosen and letting you know a bit more about how I feel about them. But for now, let me talk about my Ilford jacket by Friday Pattern Company. So this is the Ilford jacket. It's a lovely sort of casual style, almost utility type style jacket, quite boxy. There are a few different versions that you can make with this. So you can have the sort of cropped version. This is a unisex pattern, by the way, which is why it has a man on the front. There's a lady on the back. So you can make it for male or female, depending on measurements. So yeah, you can make the boxy short style that the man's wearing on the front, or you can make it in a longer length style. I'll put the line drawings here as well so that you can see them a little bit better. But yeah, the longer length style is more of a sort of, I don't know, like an overcoat style, I guess. I don't know how to describe that, but it's longer in length anyway. And then the pattern actually gives you lots of different pocket options. So you can really just mix and match and put your own twist really on the pockets of the jacket. You don't have to follow their instructions or example or anything. You can do whatever you want. You can even put pockets on the sleeve if you want to, so you can make it look quite utility style. So here it is. I made mine up in a Mind the Maker organic cotton twill fabric, so it's quite sturdy and it's in this really nice sort of olive khaki type colour. I went for the shorter boxy version, and I forgot to mention actually that you can put proper cuffs on the sleeves and have sort of button placket cuffs. Is that what they're called? But I decided to just go for the standard straight sleeve because I wanted to roll the cuffs up like that. And that's how I'll probably wear it. So if I just unbutton this, show you inside. This is a really lovely jacket to sew actually, and if you are a beginner and you've never sewn a jacket or a coat before, I'd really recommend this pattern because it's quite a simple style actually. It's really sort of, if you make the version I've made anyway, it is really quite simple to sew. There isn't anything too difficult in there. Obviously the collar is probably the most difficult part of the whole thing. The button placket is just folded over, so you haven't got a separate button placket. The collar itself isn't actually on a stand. It's quite a flat collar, which I was surprised about actually. I was expecting to have to do the whole sort of stand and everything that you'd normally do on a shirt or a jacket. So it does sit a little bit differently to maybe a more formal style jacket would. But it is a little bit easier to put in that way because you haven't got to do the stand. So again, another sort of good thing if you are a beginner and you're wanting to make your first jacket. So I went for these pockets. I think they're called hand warmer pockets. And originally I also put 2 square patch pockets here, like on the breast part of the jacket, breast pockets I think I want to say. But I tried the jacket on and it just didn't really look right. It looked a little bit too much, and actually the pockets sat a bit of a funny place on me. So after sewing them all in and making the pockets and everything, I actually ended up unpicking those pockets and just leaving these hand warmer ones. And I much prefer that actually, and I prefer the simple style. So I'm really pleased with this. So yeah, pleased to have that one in my wardrobe, especially coming up to the change in seasons. I think this will be a good one for over jeans and dresses and things coming into the colder months. I do have plans actually to make myself another denim version of this now that I've made this up. There are a lot of longer length denim jackets around on the high street at the moment, and I thought if I made pretty much exactly the same style as this out of a denim and just had the length longer, I think that would be really useful as well. So watch this space. Hopefully I'll get around to that at some point. I did tell a slight lie there actually. I did actually sew up another couple of things over the summer. I sewed some cushions for our front room. So for ages again, I've been meaning to make some new cushions for our front room or our lounge, whatever you want to call it. So our theme in the living room is actually sort of cream and navy blue again. It's quite a strong theme through our house. I just love navy blue. But anyway, I'd been meaning to sort of introduce another colour to that because sometimes it's quite sort of just blue and cream. So I wanted some rust colour cushions, and again I was going to buy them because sometimes I just don't really feel like doing things like making cushions now. I don't know why, but I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, and one day shopping in John Lewis I managed to find a remnant of this lovely upholstery fabric which was in their bargain bucket for super cheap. So I decided that I needed to stop being lazy and make my own cushions, and I bought this remnant of fabric and it made me 2 nice cushions for our front room. So I made one that's sort of rectangular like this, and I decided to just add a little bit of applique to it as well. So hopefully you can see there that I've just done a little applique butterfly, which ties in with the blue in the front room, and then some leaves there, and a flower there as well, and some leaves. So after my sort of initial not really wanting to make cushions, I did actually get quite into that job once I had got started, and I really enjoyed doing the applique and things here. This is the kind of thing that I used to do ages ago before I really got into dressmaking. I used to love making cushions and sort of doing all this delicate applique work and stuff like that, but for some reason it doesn't sort of hold the same interest for me anymore. I much prefer making clothes, but it was really nice to actually sort of revisit that again and do a bit of applique on the machine, and I'm really pleased with how that turned out. So I made that one. And then I also just made a plain one in the same fabric, and I've just done this border around the edge to just give it a little bit of extra interest. So yeah, that was something else that I managed to make over the summer. So I'm going to move on then to what I've picked up over the summer in terms of sewing patterns and fabrics and plans I have and things like that. So again, trying to finish up my 5 patterns for spring and summer, I ended up buying myself the Tilly and the Buttons Marnie pattern, because this in its blouse form was one of the patterns that I wanted to sew up for the changing seasons, so springtime and summertime, but I think it will work still going into autumn. So yeah, the Marnie blouse is a funny one for me actually. When it first came out, I did not like it at all, which I do find actually with quite a lot of Tilly and the Buttons patterns. But until you see everyone else in one on Instagram and YouTube and things, I've kind of come around to it now, and I have to say I do really like some of the versions that I've seen around. So if you've not seen the Marnie blouse, it's a really, you can make it as frilly and flouncy really as you want to. It's a peasant style blouse or dress. It's made in a really interesting sort of yoke and panelled way. So it has some really nice interesting side panels and then a gathered yoke. You can make a frilled collar if you want to, and you can either make sort of straight sleeves, or you can have this more balloon style sleeve, and the sleeve is actually made in 2 parts. There are also some interesting tuck details that you can put onto the bodice and also the sleeve as well. So the version that I want to make for myself is really quite simple. So I want to make the blouse version, not the dress, and I'm going to do the pin tucks, but I'm not going to have the frills on the sleeves here, and I'm not going to have the frilled neck. So I'm going to make it quite nice and plain first of all to see how I go and see what the fit is like and everything. And I think that will look really nice coming into autumn and winter with jeans and whatever else you might want to wear. So the fabric that I have, and this is from Minerva, it was gifted in exchange for the blog post that I am going to write up when I eventually do make this. I was actually looking for a sort of viscose dobby fabric, but I couldn't quite find what I really wanted. So in the end, I ended up going for one of Minerva's viscose fabrics, and this I have used before. I made a NYX dress from it in a rusty colour, and the quality of this is really lovely. It's quite a heavyweight viscose, more heavy than other viscoses that I have used. I think when it's sort of held together, it has quite a lot of drape and weight to it, and it's lovely and soft and smooth. So I knew what the quality was like. I just chose a different colour, and I was going for either white or off-white or cream, and I ended up going for this colour. I think it's called Oyster, and I think this colour sometimes suits me better than stark light plain white. So yeah, I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to do the version with the pin tucks. They do look quite satisfying to do. If you have any tips, if you've made the Marnie blouse up, let me know. And hopefully I will be able to share with you my finished Marnie blouse quite soon in the future. Another 2 fabrics that I managed to pick up during the summer holidays were 2 here. And these were actually from Brighton. We went out to Brighton for a day, and I'm sure we all do this. Whenever we're going to like a new town or somewhere, I Googled whether or not there are any fabric shops around that I could visit while we were sort of exploring the area. And there are actually quite a few fabric shops in Brighton. So Brighton, if you don't know it, it has a lovely little area to it in the shopping or the main town called the Lanes, and there are some really interesting sort of unique shops there, like vintage shops and quirky shops, independent things and craft shops and things like that, and I'd never managed to sort of explore that area before. So it was so busy. We went on the bank holiday Monday in August and it was pretty busy, so we didn't have a lot of time. We didn't want to sort of drag the kids too much into the shopping area while we were near the beach. But we googled where the fabric shops were and we literally made a beeline for those, and I had a quick look in and then we went back to the beach. So I found a lovely shop there called Cloth Control. It was just such a lovely shop. It had so many different fabrics in it and they were really reasonably priced, and I could have bought loads more than I actually did. I was really quite restrained. If they do have a website, actually, I will link it below. I haven't actually looked to see whether they do sell online yet, but I am planning to, or I was planning to. Anyway, what I ended up picking up was this stripy jersey. I love a stripe, as you know, and I do love a navy and white stripe. And this fabric is a viscose jersey, I think. It was only about £6 a metre, and it's got a lovely drape to it. And it feels really soft. I have actually washed this, and it's that kind of jersey that's quite thin, doesn't need any ironing to it. So I think it might have a bit of polyester or something in it as well. But yeah, I thought it was really nice, and I loved this navy and white. It sounds silly, but there are so many different sort of blends of navy and white that you can get, and I'm very particular about the type of navy and the type of white that I like, and this one suited the type that I like. So yeah, I picked up 1.5 meters of this jersey because I want to make something with it that I haven't made for so long and keep meaning to try again, and that is the Cocoa pattern by Tilling the Buttons. So this is one of the patterns that I got when I was quite sort of new to jersey sewing. I'd heard it was a good one for beginners, which it absolutely is. And I made a couple of different versions of it and have never just really gone back to it. But I would really like to make a couple more long sleeve t-shirts and things that I can layer in the coming sort of cooler months. So I thought it would be really nice to revisit the Cocoa pattern again, and I thought the Cocoa always looks really nice in a striped jersey. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about with this fabric is that it's a little bit too drapey for the Cocoa, but hopefully it will be okay. It will be an experiment and we will see. And then they had some really lovely linen blend fabrics in this particular shop as well. And again, going back to my 5 patterns for spring and summer video, I had picked up some linen from Stuff and Still to make myself a pair of shorts, which still hasn't happened yet. When I came to have a look at that fabric, I thought it was quite sort of scratchy in a way. And I have washed it and everything, and after the wash it felt quite scratchy, and I had meant to sort of pick up something else that I could make the pair of shorts with instead. So I had a little look at their linens there and ended up buying just 1 meter of this one. This is a linen viscose blend, but it does have a little bit of a sort of textured pattern to it, and it's really nice and drapey. I've washed this one as well, and since washing, this one actually feels a little bit scratchy too, so I'm wondering if both of these linens will actually soften up after they've been pressed. And I'm thinking now that possibly I didn't need to buy myself another new linen. I should have just pressed the other one and seen how it went, but anyway, I didn't. I ended up buying myself another meter, but that's okay because the other linen will definitely get used for something. So what I'm going to try and get done before the end of summer with this linen is to, instead of making the goji shorts by Deer and Doe, which I was planning to make, I'm actually going to make a free pattern, and that's the Peppermint spring shorts, I think they're called. It's a free pattern from Peppermint, and I've seen so many different versions of these shorts. They look really lovely and comfy. And the reason I put the goji shorts on my list was because I just wanted a simple sort of elasticated waist drawstring pair of shorts, and I thought rather than buying a new pattern which costs quite a lot of money, I'll actually use a free pattern because I really want to be better at using free patterns. So I think, fingers crossed, that might be a quick sew. So yeah, I am hoping to get that one done before the end of summer too. I think perhaps not now, but maybe next summertime or even spring and summertime, I might use the other linen to make a pair of Style Arc bob pants, because this is another pattern that I've seen around on other people, and I think they look really nice and really casual, and it's another pattern that I'd really like to try maybe next year. So that's a possible plan for that. And then 2 more. I'm really trying not to sort of waffle too much about all of this because I'm aware of how much else I need to share with you. But anyway, I popped to our local John Lewis the other day, and they had a little bit of a sale on there. I'm not that impressed with John Lewis fabric department anymore, I have to say. They had a little time where they were stocking some really nice viscose fabrics, but they seem to have stopped doing that now. They have so many cottons and so many sort of polyester blends, but not many of the fabrics that I would like, which is very rude. But anyway, yeah, there isn't normally a lot there that I do go for, but we had a little look anyway, and this fabric, it's a rib knit jersey fabric with quite a bit of stretch to it, was only £5 a metre. So I picked up a metre of that, and I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, to be honest, but I think it will probably end up being another Agnes top, because again, I just think it will be a really good layering one for the colder months that I can put under cardigans and jackets and shirts and things like that. And it's quite funny because my daughter has really got into wearing cropped rib tops at the moment, the kind of thing that we used to wear in the 90s, if you are a child or a teenager of the 90s like me. She's gone right back to that sort of 90s style of like cargo pants and cropped rib t-shirts and things. So I brought this because she's got a t-shirt which I think was from H&M, which is pretty much the exact same fabric as this, and I thought that I could twin with her and she'd probably be absolutely devastated by that now. And then lastly, I just thought I'd share with you something that I picked up from Dunelm. So we had our kitchen done about this time last year, and I have been meaning to get a blind for the kitchen for absolutely ages, but haven't got around, or just haven't been able to find the right fabric that I want for the blind. So our kitchen is kind of navy blue and white, but it also has a little bit of beige in there as well with the floor tiles. And yeah, I was going to get one made to measure and just have it fitted, but I just haven't been able to find a fabric that I like. And I didn't want to make one. I always used to make my own Roman blinds around the house. Here I do have quite a few of the windows sort of dressed in the Roman blinds that I've made myself, but I absolutely hate making them. So I really didn't want to make one myself. I thought this time I'm just going to have one fitted. But anyway, as I say, I couldn't find anything I liked. So I was in Dunelm's the other day with my mum. Dunelm's is just like a sort of home furnishing place really, but they do have a blind design and fitting service where they'll come out and do it for you. So I went really to have a look at the fabrics they had, but again I just didn't really see anything I liked. So we were looking around the rest of the sort of homeware, me and my mum, and came across this tablecloth which was in the sort of bargain bucket because it didn't have the bag that it was supposed to come in. It's an absolutely humongous tablecloth. I don't even know the size of it, but it's very big. And it's in a really lovely sturdy cotton, and it was about £20 I think. So bearing in mind that it would cost over £100 for me to get a blind made and fitted by a shop, I thought, you know what, I know how to make a blind. This is really silly. This is the perfect fabric, exactly what I was looking for that I couldn't find in the shops. I'm just going to buy this tablecloth and make the blind myself. Roman blinds are pretty easy to make really. It's just that they involve quite a lot of maths and working things out, and you need to work out the drop obviously, and then where the pleats are going to go. And as I've mentioned before, maths isn't really my strong point. I hate doing all that working out, and I'm so scared all the time that I'm going to do it wrong. But anyway, I thought if it does go wrong, the most I've wasted is £20 and probably about 2,000 hours of my own time. But anyway, I'm going to give that a go, and hopefully I'll finally get a Roman blind for my kitchen. But I just thought I'd share that because sometimes it is really worthwhile thinking about fabric that way, because as I say, this is a tablecloth. If I'd bought this in meters from a fabric shop, I'm sure it would cost me way more than £20. But because I've bought it as like a tablecloth that is in the sale because it doesn't have its bag, it's like super cheap. It's really weird how that works. And I think that with duvet covers as well, you can get fabric by the way of like duvet covers. So if you just want a plain white cotton, think about buying it as a duvet cover and just cutting it up, because often they're super cheap. Anyway, that's that. So moving on to works in progress now, I'll start with a little sewing work in progress that I've got going on. So there was a day in the summer holidays that I really felt like sewing something up, but nothing too difficult. I wanted something that I'd sewn before and kind of knew the process of. So I decided to make a Knix blouse by closet core patterns. So this NYX blouse and dress is a really lovely pattern. I've made the dress version. It also comes with 2 different blouse versions, and both of the blouse versions I'd really like to get sewn up at some point. So if I put the line drawings in and just show you, hopefully you can see. I actually went for the sort of plainer version of the pattern, which I have to admit hadn't caught my eye really until I saw Lauren from Guthrie Garney wearing one in one of her YouTube videos, and she'd made it out of a really pretty fabric and it just looked really lovely tucked into jeans, and I thought, actually that pattern's really lovely, I must give it a go. So I'd had this remnant of art gallery rayon in my stash for a while, which I'd made an Ogden cami from. It's so lovely, this is. I love the print on it. And while I was cleaning out my fabric stash, I actually realised that I had over 1 metre of this left and I really should sew it into something else. So I had just enough to squeeze out a short sleeve version of the plain version of the NYX blouse. So I have that all cut out here, and I've done a little tiny bit of the sewing, but not a lot. Yeah, I've put in the facing and I've sewn the front seam together as well. So the front is actually made in 2 separate parts. So it has a centre front seam, and then the V-neck is just faced at the back. So that is literally all I've done so far. And then the back has the nice kind of gathered burrito yoke. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So yeah, I really must get on with that. I started this about 2 weeks ago, I think, and I just haven't really had the time or the sort of mental space to get around to it. So I'm really looking forward to having that done. And again, I think that will be a nice one to lay out under cardigans and things. So moving on to sort of yarn crafty type things. I may not have done a lot of sewing over the summer, but I did do quite a bit of knitting and crochet. I bought myself recently some Rowan yarn. This is Rowan, oh gosh, I can't think exactly what this is called. I'll put the name on the screen, I'll find it out. But I brought a load of this to make a different Rowan cardigan that was actually sort of made for this yarn. But when I cast on for this particular cardigan, I just could not get the tension right. It was coming out huge every time, even when I sized down my needles and everything. So I kind of just gave up with the cardigan that I had intended to make with this in the end, and decided to go back to an old favourite, which is the Whitmore cardigan by Taylor S Studios. So I knit this probably around this time last year, maybe a bit earlier. In a DK weight yarn. This grey yarn is actually an Aran yarn, so it's slightly thicker, and this is where I'm at with it. So hopefully you can see that I've finished the yoke now. I've done all of the yoke on here, and I've just split the sleeves, which is really nice because after all of that lace, I'm just now kind of stocking stitching my way down to the hem, and it's just so much easier to do. So yeah, with the Whitmore cardigan, if you've not seen it, it has a lovely lace yoke detail. You can make it as a sweater or a cardigan. I've only made the cardigan version so far, but I would like to try the sweater at some point. So I've kind of winged this a little bit since I'm using an Aran weight yarn. And what I've done is, instead of making the size 2, which I made last year in the correct weight yarn, I've actually sized down to the first size. And I've gone up a needle size to accommodate for my thicker yarn, and I'm just hoping that it's going to work out okay. I really didn't know whether or not I was doing the right thing doing that. I haven't done it on any kind of technical knowledge. I've just sort of winged it basically. But it's a cardigan. If it's slightly oversized, it doesn't really matter. And I've tried the yoke on actually, and it does fit really nicely. I think it's going to be a bit more oversized than my pink Whitmore, which is fine because the pink one is quite fitted. So yeah, I'm going to carry on with the stocking stitch on this, which is really nice, and I'm going to do the bishop sleeve, is it called, with the sort of the wider sleeve which gathers into the cuff at the bottom. And yeah, I'm hoping that will be another good sort of autumn make, and that it won't take me too much longer to knit. I'm really enjoying this. It is quite fluffy, so on a hot day like today it is quite difficult to knit with. It makes your hands very sweaty, but other than that, it's a really nice sort of cozy fluffy yarn. I think it would be a good one for winter. So that's what I'm knitting at the moment. And then alongside my knitting, I've also got a crochet project on the go. So I do love to crochet, but I'm quite a basic crocheter. I just like the feeling of crocheting. I think it's quite relaxing to do. So I really enjoy crocheting granny square blankets and things like that, rather than garments or anything too difficult. I recently made my daughter a blanket just by using like a giant granny square. And when that was finished, I was actually quite sad. So I decided to make us one for our lounge. So this has actually grown super quickly. I don't know when I started this actually, but it's not been that long. And look how big it is already. It's absolutely ginormous. So I think I have 2 more balls of wool to go on this. I'm going to just keep going until they're finished, and then I'm going to put an edge on it. But I really like this yarn. It's one of those sort of yarns I'll show you. It's in a giant ball like this, and it's one of those sort of colour fade ones. So it's got some darker blue, lighter blue, beige and brown in there. And this suits our lounge or our front room perfectly. We've got a rug that's so similar in colour to this. It just couldn't really be any more perfect. So I've actually put this to one side for a bit while I've been doing my knitting, because the knitting has kind of taken over. I really wanted to get the yoke done on the Whitmore cardigan, but I think come sort of the colder months, I'm definitely going to get back into this. And that's what I like about having a blanket on the go. There's no real rush to it. While you're crocheting, you can just have it over you as a blanket anyway, and you're just kind of working on it while it's keeping you cozy. And I love that about making blankets. So that's that one. And then just before I go, I'm going to talk about some books that I've read recently. So if you're not interested in this part, then feel free to skip it. But yeah, I just thought I would mention them because I know some of you love reading as well. So recently I have read this one, Still Life by Sarah Winman. So this book is so lovely, so lovely. I really enjoyed it. It does take a bit of getting into, and actually I found it quite hard going when I first started it because it's written really differently to what I'm used to. It's not got a lot of punctuation in it, and I found that quite strange when I sort of first got going on it. But I know quite a few of you have read this actually, because when I mentioned it before and when I've mentioned it on Instagram, it's been a really popular book and I know loads of people love it. And I can't really explain why, and I think you'll know what I mean if you've read it. It's just such a comforting book. It's written so sort of beautifully. You really get to know the characters, you really empathise with them. You just feel as though they're your friends. It's really weird to say, but you'll know if you have read it. And nothing really happens in it. It's not a major storyline or anything. It's just a really lovely, comforting read. And it's set in Italy as well, which I really enjoyed reading a bit more about Italy. It's kind of set wartime and then a little bit after as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And then I also read The Wedding Dress Sewing Circle, which I'll put an image in here. That was a library book, and I really enjoyed that one as well. It was just such a lovely, comforting read. Did enjoy it. It did get a little bit predictable towards the end, so I think, nothing major happens in it, but it's just so nice to read, so comforting, really interesting about how fashion was in the wartime and sort of the role that fashion did play in wartime and how clothing was used and things like that. I found that side of it really, really interesting. But in terms of the actual sort of storyline and how it evolves, it does get a little bit predictable, but I would recommend that just as a really lovely read. And of course, it's about sewing, so I did enjoy that one. Then as a holiday read, I read this one, which is called The Midnight House. So this I just picked up because it's one of those kind of books that I just always love to read. It's kind of one of those where a story has happened in the past and someone from the present time is trying to work out what's gone on. I think it wasn't my favourite one of those kind of books, and it's funny because if you ask me what happened in this book now, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. I can't really remember a great deal of what went on. I've read a couple of books since and nothing about it particularly stands out in my mind. It was just a really nice read, if you know what I mean. But yeah, if you are into those kind of books like I am, where they're sort of in the past and in the present, then I would recommend that. It was still a good read, even though I can't remember a lot about it. And then I also read Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. So this one I actually got for Mother's Day, and I hadn't read until the summertime, and I think I'd been a bit put off by the cover on this one. I just didn't really think I was going to enjoy it, but I know, again, this has been a really popular one on Goodreads and gets really high reviews. So yeah, I gave it a go, and I read this so quickly. I really enjoyed it. It is a different sort of storyline for me again, but I did enjoy it because it was set in the past, like early 60s time, and there's a lot in it about women's roles and how women were treated so differently at that time, and yeah, just how times have changed really. And it's about a lady and her struggle to get where she wants to be in those times where she's just kind of fighting against the power of men, I suppose, if I'm saying that right. But yeah, I would highly recommend that one as well. It was a really nice read, written really nicely, and I just found that I could just sit and read it for ages. I didn't want to put it down, so that's a really good one too. And then my current read is this one. It's Kate Morton's new book called Homecoming. This one I had for my birthday, so it's her newest book, so it's in hardback. And again, it's one of those sort of past present type books of someone trying to work out a story of the past. It's set in Australia around post-war time, which again I'm finding really interesting. You'll realise that I'm kind of interested in that sort of era, sort of 40s, 50s time. I find it really interesting. I'm almost halfway through this one now, and now that we've gone back to a routine, I think I'm going to struggle to find so much reading time, so I'm trying to read a bit at bedtime or whenever I can. But yeah, that's a really good one too, and I love all of Kate Morton's books. She's a really good writer. I really like her writing style, and I find her books really immersive and really sort of good to get into. So that's that one. Okay, so I think that brings me to the end of everything I have to catch you up on so far. I feel like I've talked so much. Thank you so much if you have watched to the end of the video. I hope I didn't waffle too much, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've really loved sort of getting in front of the camera again and recording another video. I've got loads of plans for new videos coming up into the autumn winter time. I'm actually really excited. I'm thinking about sort of capsule wardrobe things for autumn this time. And then my normal sort of plans and fabric hauls and pattern reviews and things like that. And thank you so much if you did respond to my question on the community tab actually, where I just asked about future video ideas. I always find it really helpful to get video ideas from you because I always want to put out videos that are interesting and that you like to see. So if you do have any other video suggestions, then do leave them in the comments. Oh, I also meant to say as well, I hope you like my new intro and outro colours. I'm trying to do a little bit of sort of rebranding to some things. My old videos used to have the sort of black and bright pink, which just doesn't really go with me anymore, I don't think. So I'm kind of rebranding my blog and my YouTube and things like that to be a little bit more in me kind of colours. And I'm really hoping to do some things that I've been planning to do for a while, like start up my newsletter and things like that, and get my blog going again, where I'm actually writing proper blogs and not just putting YouTube videos and things like that on there. We've also got a couple of exciting collaborations coming up as well that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. So if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love you to consider subscribing, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Thanks so much for watching again, everyone. Have a lovely day, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.